So not the greatest transfer portal season so far for Oregon men's basketball. And I'm not in panic concern mode. I am in, what's the plan mode? That's where my head is at. Just kind of a, what's going to happen next? And is it going to be good? Because this was a great option and it's been taken off the table. In fact, two. Not one, but two transfer portal options appear to be taken off the table. So Tony Perkins commits to Missouri. He was the second-team All-Big 12 guard from Iowa, who I talked about here on the show. Guy just gave you Jermaine Couisnard vibes. I mean, if you're in the Big Ten, you probably play defense. Admittedly, I didn't get to the point of watching film on him, but statistically, very similar. He can score. He's got a playmaking component to his game with the assists. He's an okay shooter, but could maybe improve, as Couisnard did going from South Carolina to Oregon. He's going to Missouri. So that's no longer an option. And as Oregon looks ahead to next season, there is still no starting shooting guard in the rotation. I think Des Lindsey, who's a 6'6 shooting guard / small forward coming over from the junior college ranks. Yeah, I think he's solid, brings some nice things to the table. I think he's closer to a Cario Oquendo, Brennan Rigsby sort of role than he would be a Jermaine Couisnard sort of role. So with Perkins off to Missouri, that leaves that option open. Now, still, the transfer portal is not completely bare. I haven't seen or heard anything about who Oregon could be after next, but with Tony Stubblefield coming back to the Ducks coaching staff after giving it a go as the head coach at DePaul, which is a very, very tough situation. I speculated on last week's show that could mean there are transfer portal announcements imminent. There better be. I was hoping it'd be Perkins. Perkins would have been absolutely perfect for what Oregon is looking for next year, but that's no longer an option. Then, this has not formally happened yet, but Oumar Ballo, who is, I believe, the top-rated player in the transfer portal, who has played against Dana Altman many a times, and N'Faly Dante over the last couple of seasons. He's been crystal balled to Indiana. Now, is a crystal ball everything? No, but are crystal balls logged for a reason? Also, not also yes, just yes, because the first answer was no, Spencer. The second answer is yes, so saying also would be incorrect. Just had to remind myself of that. Anyway, thank you for putting up with my idiocy from time to time. So Oumar Ballo is crystal balled to Indiana. That would be a massive flip. And Ballo would be, I cannot express this in the strongest possible terms, perfect. He would be perfect. He would be new Dante. He'd be new Dante. We know Dana loved Dante, and he had an incredible end to Oregon's season in his career. And unfortunately, Ducks couldn't get it done against Creighton, or else. I got to tell you, I was watching the March Madness, of course, because it's the best, and NC State making that run to the Final Four, and I watched that thinking, that could have been Oregon. That could have been Oregon. If they'd met Purdue in the Elite Eight, guess what? N'Faly Dante to stop Zach Edey, hey, he'd have as good a chance as anybody. Anyway, I try to think about that stuff. Like Couisnard was so hot, and Shellstad was, playing solidly, and it was really good. Anyway, so Ballo is crystal ball to Indiana, which means that Oregon is looking for a starting big, or at least a starting caliber big, because the Nate Biddle situation is one in which if he is healthy over the course of an entire year, that guy could average 15, 8, and 2 blocks a game, shoot at 33% from beyond the arc. Crazy amount of talent. But for someone who's battled injuries each of his first couple years, and that's been the history with Oregon bigs over the last several seasons, can you expect that? Can you demand that? Can his body take that? I have my doubts. Like, that would be a potentially fruitful situation, but it'd be a risky proposition to say, well, we're relying on Nate Biddle to stay healthy all year to have, a plus at the center position. Well, I don't know. Like, Oregon has to find another option in there. And if it's not going to be Oumar Ballo, then they got to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, and I'm not sure how seriously they're actually looking at Ballo. I know that, Perkins had Oregon listed in his top 6, but I would be more than a little surprised. I'd be disappointed, frankly, if Dana Altman didn't see Ballo's name go into the portal and try to make contact with him right away. I'd be more than a little shocked if that didn't happen, or if Dana Altman or any other member of the staff, somebody from Oregon, just given the familiarity and proximity there, because he was at Gonzaga to start his career, then went to Arizona, and he's got just the 1 year left. And certainly I'd take him for a 1 year rental, because he's a really, really good player and could help Oregon make an NCAA tournament run. So those were the dream options. I never, when I talked about them in the same show, expected that Oregon would be able to get both. I was hoping they'd be able to land at least one, but one is definitely off the table in Perkins. Ballo is likely off the table. I don't know why he thinks Indiana is the best spot to go, but hey, there are a lot of factors that go into a kid committing out of the transfer portal. So Oregon is back to Ibrahima Traore, who could certainly be a backup 4 or 5 this year. You know, he's got a little, I compared him to J.J. Hickson. He's got a Frank Kepnong to his game. That's a recent Oregon player that I think his game reminds me of a lot. Not incredibly refined at the offensive end, but certainly capable. But just, 6'8", 6'9", athletic, defense, energy, block shots, and dunks. That's not a guy that you ever complain about being able to bring off the bench, but it's certainly not someone who I expect to come to Oregon and start right away. And I don't think that the Ducks do either. So, if they're going to roll, like the other option, if they can't find a big, and I would certainly hope they do, is KJ Evans. You hope Biddle is healthy, and then when he's not, you play KJ Evans at the small ball 5. Now, when that happened last year, and Dante went out, and Biddle was out, and Evans had to play the small ball 5, he was very good. He was very good at both ends of the floor. But one name to keep an eye on, he's still in the transfer portal, is Andrei Stojakovic, the son of NBA great Peja Stojakovic, who had a career with the Kings and then the Hornets, and I remember growing up watching him as a kid. Stojakovic was about an 8-point-a-game scorer, but a good shooter, about 33-ish% a season ago with Stanford. 6'7" shooting guard. I don't know if he's someone Oregon would automatically insert into the starting lineup. I think it's just a name to watch for, to have as an option to put in the starting lineup. And maybe that, 2-guard position rotates between Keyshawn Bartholomew and Brennan Rigsby, or not Brennan Rigsby, Des Lindsey, who's coming in. But there's no Oquendo, there's no Rigsby coming off the bench. But you'll have Des Lindsey, you'll have, one of Bam Tracy or Mookie Cook, you'll have Keyshawn Bartholomew, and you'll have Traore as well. I think you get one more big into the mix, and you find a starting 2, and then you're good. But those top 2 options both appear to be off the table. And I'll close with some optimism here as it pertains to Oregon basketball and the transfer portal. When the season ended, someone asked KJ Evans, like right after the loss to Creighton, which was, of course, devastating, what his plans were for next year, and he said he didn't know. He said, I don't know what I'm going to do or anything like that. I think he was more just distraught about the loss. I am 70% gut feeling here that no news is good news on that front. I have not heard a peep. I talked at the time about how Evans would be best served to come back to Dana Altman, and Oregon would be best served to get KJ Evans back, because he needs to take a jump from freshman year to sophomore year. And if he and Shellstad both do that, those are all conference caliber players. Those guys are absolute rock stars. And so if you keep Evans around, and that's the way it feels, is there's been no buzz, there have been no crystal balls, there have been no articles, no speculation, no Twitter rumors, nothing about KJ Evans for the last couple weeks. And he said he'd know in the last couple weeks. He hasn't made an affirmative decision that he's returning to the Ducks. But the fact that there's been no buzz since that quote got out there, I think is a good sign. So if you can have Evans back, and you've got Tracy and Cook rotating at the 3, you find someone to play at the 2. And I might have to explore this on another show. Maybe Tracy and Cook both start, and you just have a couple of guys out there who are 6'5" or 6'6". Maybe Mookie Cook is ready for that. I don't know. That'd be asking a lot, since he didn't really get a freshman season. But that's where things stand for Oregon basketball in the portal. I look forward to that announcement. I feel like it's got to be coming soon. Move has got to be made. Scholarships are open, and there are needs on this team Just got to pull the trigger on somebody. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.